And we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction and the super in superhero. I have that on absolute 100% permanent authority from the man on high, God of all things comics, Stan Lee. He called me yesterday, no lie. I wouldn't lie to you about something so serious, people.
That long distance charge must be horrible.
Oh yeah, I shuttered a thing. I'm glad we like borrowed our neighbor's connection, so she's gonna get stuck with a bill. I mean, I'm sorry, but you know it was important. All right. It was her Wi-Fi that took the call. All right. So with that being said, Mr. Rene Garza, can you introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers, please?
Hi, guys. I'm Rene Garza. I'm a writer and co-owner of Apogee Comics. Oh, there's them. Nice to meet everybody.
All right. He likes long walks on the beach, coffee as dark as his soul, and
Yeah,
women that on a regular basis. Wait, that was the after show. We weren't supposed to say that part out loud. Dang it, you can't take me anywhere, Stabby. All right, so the next part of the introduction, dear listener, is Nick is going to tell us how he found this guy.
Well, I was at a comic convention, and he somehow got away from his owner, and he was so adorable, and I had to take him home with me, and no, that's not what happened. But it did happen at a comic convention. I think it was the first South Texas Comic Con. 2016.
Yeah.
2016, 2015, somewhere around there. No, 2014. Wow, it was a while ago. So I've known the cat a long time. He showed up to my booth, and he's like, "Hey, I'm an aspiring writer, and I'd like to stay in contact with you and improve my craft or how to get into comic books, making comic books." I'm like, so we exchanged numbers and started hanging out, and he's been with me through most of the latter part of my comic book journey. So, and he's a phenomenal writer. He's phenomenal height, man. He's been doing these like commercials for us on Instagram, and they're awesome, you know. So, and he came up with a tagline, you know, "Make your next book Apogee," and I was like, "Oh, that's brilliant." So yeah, that's how I met him, and that's how, and we've been friends since almost 10 years now.
Yeah, it has been.
Okay,
it's been a fun ride.
Oh yeah.
So, So, do we want to tell them the news yet, Nick? About our very first sponsorship?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think now's a good time.
So we will. I wish I had some really cool graphics, but you know I wasn't prepared. So we found a sponsorship because we were like addicted to coffee. So there's a coffee company that's apolitical, which we dig because you get preached at enough on social media, called Coffee Brand Coffee. Jeremy over at The Quartering started the company to give creators a way to get out from under the YouTube microscope and just be able to talk about whatever they wanted. So we signed up, but we decided before we were going to hype that stuff. We were going to try it ourselves because the last thing we wanted to do was shill garbage your way. So we ordered some. Stabby ordered some for the Garber household, and it is not yet arrived. It's shipping from Arizona, I believe. So what did you guys order, Stabby?
Well, we ordered the bourbon flavored medium roast.
All right, and that sounds delicious. So I actually ordered some. I tried the s'mores coffee, and it came in on Friday, and I added just a little bit of French vanilla cream to it, and I literally felt like I was drinking a s'mores. And for half the cup of what I would spend if I bought the equivalent frou-frou nonsense from Starbucks, I can make myself, and it has half the calories because the only calories you're getting in coffee is the creamer. And I've talked about the coffee craftologist lady who gave me the recipe for a creamer. And so literally like 300 calories a cup with my creamer, which is half of what Starbucks of the equivalent amount would be. So it's delicious. So we will shill for it. We will link to it The way it works is you click the link. If you decide to buy anything, it doesn't matter if it's the brand we link to. If you use that link to then buy anything, we get a little bit of a kickback. I think it's like 5% they throw our way. And so by buying coffee you would otherwise buy and supporting independent roaster, you help us. And unlike some of these places that they do what they call drop shipping, which is one giant roaster will sell the same coffee to 3 different companies, slap different labels on it. And so you're not actually getting the company roasting it. This is actually, like Jeremy actually started a roasting house. So they're actually roasting it themselves, which is kind of commendable. We need competition for the Starbucks out there. And it's nice to shop with people who don't hate me. So that's always a plus.
That's a huge win.
Yeah, the next time we show for them, I will have some cool graphics. And if you look in the show notes, there will be a link that you can click on. But we didn't prepare with the discount code. We did not prepare for this in this episode, but I literally just finished as we were prepping for the show, the coffee from them, and it was so delicious. I'm like, dude, let's pull the trigger. Let's announce
fresh
it.
on his tongue. Fresh on his tongue.
It is. I'm thinking if I skip dinner, I can have another cup.
Decisions.
I know.
Decision will be made.
I made myself nachos for lunch, and I'm like, I know what they are when I get them from like the local Mexican restaurant. It can't be that bad. So I measured the amount of chips, threw them on the cookie sheet, threw some cheese on top that I measured out, and once I was done, I entered it, and I'm like, holy garbage. Okay, I'm not eating nachos again, but it was delicious. But so now I got to cut back at dinner, which means it's like, because of the calories, it's like, do I want coffee or do I want like oatmeal to eat dinner? I don't know. It's a tough
one
call.
fried egg. I've had to do that to make.
Yeah, but I mean, the coffee was so good. I felt like dessert was dancing on my tongue.
Have another cup, bro.
I know, right? I could eat tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow's a new day of calories.
That's right. That's right. All right. So since we're speaking of all things new and awesome, this is the first time Renee's been on the show, so he gets to answer the religion questions. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Yeah, sure.
All right, sir. Starbucks, Star Wars, Star Trek, or Firefly?
Star Wars.
All right. That's an excellent answer. Why?
Pardon?
Why is it Star Wars for you?
Star Wars. Well, I grew up on Star Wars and pretty much the way the story's told and whatnot. I'm a big bounty hunter fan as well. I'm a big Boba Fett fan. Ever since like he came out in The Empire Strikes Back, which is my favorite one. Even up to Return of the Jedi, even when they did their show, which I felt they should have done a lot better on his own show. But yeah, no, I'm a Star Wars fan. I'm a big Star Wars fan ever since I was a little kid.
Okay, that's an acceptable answer. Did you discover it through the movies, the books, the cartoons?
The movies.
All right, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
Did you read any of the books? Man, I used to dig those.
Actually, I started reading the Thrawn, the Thrawn trilogy, and I discovered the Thrawn original in Legends. So I can't wait to start on those. I became a big fan of that character too.
Yeah, he's ruthless.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to that one.
Oh, and so when you go to the Coffee Brand Coffee and the link code for us, because Nick and I are nothing if not creative, it is podcast grunts. Plural, because there's 2 of us. That is how awesomely creative we are.
And it gets you, on my order, it got me 2% off.
Was it 2 or is it? It's 10% right now. It's 5 normally. It's $2, Nick, not $2.
$2. That's what it was. $2. Took $2 off.
Yeah. So
if I order more, I'd save more.
Yes. And did you rush the shipping? I don't know if that makes a difference.
I did standard shipping.
Okay. I did too. And they were actually pretty quick. I imagine, because they're coming from Arizona, I imagine it's quicker if you're in California than that is their logo. They're nothing if not simple, which I dig. I mean, they could probably hire an artist we know. That Apogee Comics could probably make them some kick-ass art to brand themselves with.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They do K-Pods, they do tea, they do hot chocolate. So if you're not a coffee person, they do have other options as well.
Oh,
as they say in South Texas, they have chingos of options.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know what any of that means, but I'll smile and nod with the best of them.
It's a way for us to swear and not have, and it's still a family-friendly show.
I know what y'all are saying. No, I'm joking.
Okay. Well, this is where I smile and nod, and we just move on. All right. So the next question, because I did tell you there was a wrong answer here. So the next question is, All right, you ready for this, sir? Because we are polytheistic.
Okay.
All righty, you've got Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, or The Wheel of Time.
Well, I'm a Lord of the Rings fan because of the books. Yeah, as a kid, I had finished reading, I guess, Goosebumps. I had finished the whole series, and I wanted to expand my, repertoire of reading books. And then I saw The Hobbit, so I started reading that one, and I don't know, I fell in love with the series, and I'm like, there's more of these, so like, yeah, I became a big fan of Lord of the Rings.
Okay, so speaking of Goosebumps, I don't know who did it, but they No. I think Disney was going to make it, and they did a remake of it, and they got the people our age who would have watched it out of nostalgia to watch the movie in a fan testing where they pay them to watch it. It was so bad they walked out of it even and refused the payment. It was so bad they didn't want to wait for the whole thing just for the free money. Oh, Nickelodeon.
Yeah,
I saw that being reported. I haven't found that verified, but it doesn't surprise me with modern TV that it would be that bad.
There was an older show of it. I remember seeing that
in the 90s. Nickelodeon had it.
And the 90s one, the 90s.
I remember watching that. And then the other one is apparently the Disney is actually doing one that looks good. They're doing a re-version of the Percy Jackson. They did the one-time movie, then nothing happened with it. They're starting back from book one with the Lightning Thief, and they're going to do a series on Disney starting in December. That actually looks promising. And according to the commercial I saw on the YouTubes, they were staying out of politics, which is cool. Let's see if they honor that promise, because
they didn't.
Have you seen it?
No, I've read multiple articles on how they have wanted to add more diversity. So a lot of
the characters were already pretty diverse in the books.
Yeah, but we're talking like some major ones that they're like, and they do what Disney does. It's like, oh, we'll just change the race instead of making them like, oh, well, maybe they're a demigod with, and these are their parents or whatever. Instead of taking a little bit more creative approaches to it, they're like, nah, we'll just switch a race of a couple of them. That'll be fine.
That is disheartening because, like I said, the series was already pretty diverse, so it didn't really need anything to make it fit the modern zeitgeist.
Well, it wasn't enough that it was like there wasn't enough. The diversity in there is like the different mythological races you had.
Well, no, because they had like Percy Jackson's mentor, not one mentor, the person that sort of monitored him from afar before his powers came to him was I think a centaur. No, it was the part goat.
Yeah.
What are the part goats?
Yep. Part goats. Satyr.
Satyr. Yeah, the satyr was already a black guy in the books, I'm pretty sure. So, it wasn't like they had to change races to get things. They already had diversity.
Well, now it's time to change the human characters or the human like characters. I'm like, whatever, that's fine.
If the story's still good and it's not too bad, I'll still probably watch it. But all right, so since we are sponsored by a company that also makes tea as well, there is no wrong answer anymore. Not with us, because we're nothing if not shameless capitalists. So, but we are civilized and no longer knuckle dragging troglodytes. So, sir, coffee, tea, and how do you take it?
Coffee, black, like life.
You must have just paid your taxes, sir.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm using that.
I like it. Normally it's black like my soul, or like my crushed dreams, but like life, I'm gonna take that. I'll probably steal it and say it was my own.
There you go.
But if you're capitalist, you'll know where it really came from.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, sir. Now that we got that out of the way, so we brought you here to talk about certain comics. So first, you've got the crowdfunding. I almost said Kickstarter, but you're going with Fund My Comics, which is an alternative. What's the difference between Fund My Comics and Kickstarter?
The difference is one, it was created by a artist himself, an indie comic creator, Luke Stone. He's the one that created it because Kickstarter and Indiegogo, they like to throttle your campaigns if they don't agree with it politically or whatever, or whatever reason they choose to. They won't showcase it. It'll be hard to find. And each one of those services, I think Kickstarter takes 10% of the top of whatever you make, and Indiegogo takes 5%. And with Fund My Comic, they only take 3. They only take 3% of what you make. So it was a crowdfunding site from an artist for artists, and the interface is super easy to use too. So so far, I'm really enjoying it as a platform.
Okay. So how did you find it?
I was on Twitter, and Luke Stone was, pimping his stuff, and he's really good at sharing your campaigns. So it's like, hey, and he'll put it on his podcast. He's like, hey, this just launched today. Like we were just featured for like the last 10 minutes of his show on Thursday on his YouTube channel, where he talked about the campaign, went over everything. He goes, man, this Nick Garber guy's got a unique style. And I'm like, man, I hope that's a good thing. They like the rewards, the price point that we put, the video they all like. They kind of made fun of it a little bit because it's like, man, it needs like the movie trailer guy, like one man, that kind of thing. But they were overall positive. They gave it a good shout out and where to find it. So that's how I ended up finding it. I found it on Twitter, and I probably saw some of his links on Facebook also because we all follow each other.
Okay. All right. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's first start with, we're doing a crowdfunding for Bengali episode 3. No, hold on. Yours, not mine. There we go. We're doing a crowdfunding for Bengali episode 3. But before we can talk about episode 3, let's talk about Bengali, period. So what can you tell me about that, this Bengali character? And then just tell us about the world and we'll go from there.
That's you, Renee.
Oh, me? Okay,
yeah. You're the writer, bro.
Audio crackled a bit. Well, Bengali is about a man named Benito Vasquez. He was a down-to-earth guy, just lived his life until he got a call saying that his father's company belongs to him. And that didn't sit right with his half-brother, which wanted the company for him. So he set a hit out on him, and leaving him close to death, disembodied voice called out to him, tell him, I can save you, but you're gonna have to be my avatar of darkness. But in doing so, it came at a price. He was gonna have to lose his humanity. But the only thing that made him whole and as a good person were memories of his mother. So he refused to give that up and broke the hold that the mask had. And now he continuing the power of darkness from the mask. He takes to the streets of San Diego to find out who was the one responsible, because he doesn't know that it was his brother that set the hit out on him. And he became the Demon of San Diego, Bengali.
Okay. So does the Demon of San Diego imply that he's a bad guy?
No, he's using the power of the mask to do good. But at the same time, the line between good and evil starts getting blurred, and he starts being more aggressive the more that he uses the mask and the power.
So does it change him, or does he just get more confident?
It slowly change him. It slowly starts.
You're going to have to read the series to find out, dear listener.
Okay. So
for the overall question.
Go ahead, Nick.
The question that we kind of asked ourselves when we were having our writing meetings is, we've heard tons of stories of darkness or evil corrupting good, but we're like, well, what if the guy is so good that he starts corrupting the evil?
That's another. That's
and so the more time we spend on this guy, it's like it's going to be a constant tug of war, for Benito's soul and Bengali's soul, because Bengali's starting to figure out, man, this light thing's pretty freaking powerful. It's stronger than darkness, and he's like, and I'm an old god, so I'm pretty powerful. But the stuff that the light touched, like, I don't know, man. May not win, but I'm going to try my best. So really, the first stage is the mask plays along, because the mask just wants to create havoc and chaos and terror and fear.
To bring back the darkness.
To bring back the darkness, the darkness actually has a name. We'll reveal that. I think that's revealed in this in this episode, this issue. So it's a constant struggle. It's fun to watch. It's fun to read because I get to read everything that comes across my desk for Apogee. So I get that information. I'm able to get those, ask those questions of my writers and be like, all right, so where are we going with this? And then they'll tell me, and I'm like, that's effed up. I like it.
I jump ahead like 8 issues when I'm like pitching ideas and we're like storyboarding.
All right, so let's back up a second before we dive too deeply into Bengali. How did you guys get into comics? Because one of the things we ask is why comics? Why not novels? Why not independent films or any of the other ways you can tell a story? What is it about comics that draws you guys in? And this is for you, Nick and Renee.
Renee, you want to take this one first?
Oh, okay. Well, what got me into comic books was, I would have to say, my cousins. Growing up, we would always hang out together. They're like my brothers. I was like more than cousins. We're actually brothers. And we would always go to the comic book shop. And I was always a big fan of Spider-Man and Venom and Spawn. I would start reading the issues, and I just fell in love with them. I fell in love with reading in general. When it comes to writing, I always enjoyed writing, especially books and whatnot. My father and like my sister, they can illustrate, and I can't draw for beans. So, so I started writing what I wanted to draw, and from there I just got really into it, and I just started writing.
Okay, what about you, Nick?
I think I was molded at a very early age. I remember my dad had painted like Batman, Superman, Shazam, and Spider-Man right next to my crib. And so that's all I had to stare at, as a baby until I could finally get out of the crib by myself. Then I watched a whole bunch of episodes. I don't know if they were on tape or whatnot, but I just remember watching a bunch of The Adventures of Superman with George Reeves. So, and then Batman 66. I was like, man, these guys are cool. And then when I was able to read, went down to one of the drugstores, had a spinner rack of comic books. I picked a few up because comics were cheap back then. And I just started reading them. And I was like, the first one I picked up was an issue of Daredevil. So that's how I fell in love with Daredevil. And I've been hooked ever since. And then I was already I remember being able to draw, or I was drawing since I could pick up a crayon. And I just kept getting better, and I kept getting better. Probably because I was very interested in comic book art, and just kept progressing in that and increasing my skills. And I made friends that way because I'd just be there doodling in class, like, "Hey man, are you drawing the Ninja Turtles?" Because they were big at the time. I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh man, cool. Can I watch you draw?" And I'm like, "All right, weirdo." But the years went by. Even in the Army, my ability to draw made me friends and got me some decent treatment from not only my peers but also my superiors, because they like, "Hey Garber, what are you doing right now?" Waiting on orders, Sergeant. He's like, "Come on over here. We got an art project for you." And I'm like, "Is that all I'm doing, or do I got to do this too?" And he's like, No. You don't have to mop the floors. You don't have to buff the floors. You're off those duties for a while until you get this drawing done." I'm like, "Okay." So, and I would make little comics while we were on deployment, even when we were, all the way up until Iraq. I was just constantly drawing, and it entertained people, and I like the feeling that it gave me. And so here we are years later, and I'm making comic books.
So what made you both decide that independent was the route to go, as opposed to like trying to get picked up with DC or Marvel or Image? Is that still a thing? I know it used to be pretty big.
It is. I got tired of getting rejection letters. So after about like my 20th one from Marvel and DC, I was like, I think I'm just going to go on my own, because I got this story that I want to tell. And that's what was with Phantom Hawk. That was the first character that I created. I had a story to tell, especially after coming back from Iraq. It was a lot of homage to the guys I served with, and those that came home and those that didn't, and those that only kind of came home. So
yeah,
I got tired of getting rejection letters, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start my own. I'm going to make my own comic book, and find a way to publish it myself.
Okay. What about you, Renee?
Me, well, I've always been a big comic book fan, and I always wanted to write comic books. And I guess I always wanted to tell my own stories, tell some of my own stories, and I felt indie's the best way to go about that. If, to like tell the tale that you want to tell, and that's what I really love about independent comic books, because you see the rawness and like the true story of someone that put in their time and their work. And yeah, that's why I enjoy being in an independent comic book creator.
Okay. Instead of writing in someone else's IP, you like the idea of making your own?
Yeah.
Is that hard to do in the major studios? They want you to do a lot more of the existing franchises?
I feel that they want you to write a certain pattern, and you're kind of like, you can't go off on your own story. You can tell your own story, but to a certain limit.
Okay.
Or with your hands bound tight, that you can, write the story that you want to tell, especially with those characters that, you grew up with, your own Spider-Man or X-Men, your own tale that you want to tell. They tell you, oh, we wanted this certain way because of this certain route, and and then they involve other, politics within it. Like, oh, these people, these investors, they want it this way and whatnot, and then from there you can't really tell the story that you want to tell. So I feel with indie, you can tell the story that you want to tell.
Yeah,
I do know, at least on the writing side, some of the trad pub would say some of the niche markets where people are making a killing are too niche for them because of their overhead. So I imagine there's some of that. Like, I don't know if you want to tell Sparkle Fairy, horse puppies or something weird. Like, I don't imagine the major companies picking that up, but maybe you'll find an audience on the independent side. That was the most random combination of weirdness I could put together, and watch Nick's like, actually, someone already did that.
Well, yeah. Usually when you pitch something like that to the bigger companies, you got to look at it like kind of like a major league sport or a professional sport. So you got the pro side, and then you got like layers of semi-pro. So with Sparkle Girl Horse Puppies, they'll be like, hey, one of our subsidiary companies, like man, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but one of the subsidiary companies like, well, we kind of really geared that towards children, ages, 3 to 8, so maybe it'll work there. So we'll give you a go there, which isn't a huge market, because they're just looking at the pictures going, go, 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 go. And
Lisa Frank.
What the hell's Lisa
Yes.
Frank?
Those were big trapper keepers back in the day.
Sparkle
if you know, you know.
Fairy Horse.
Is that Sparkle Puppy Fairy Horse?
Is that like the multicolored, right?
Yeah, the bright
neon
colored trapper keepers that all the girls
with
had.
like the Pegasus unicorn thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Garbage.
So if anybody out there in podcast land, if you've actually written Sparkle Girl Horse Puppies, you get to come on the show. Like, we'll jump whatever we're doing. Like, we'll make that a priority, and it'll air the next day. Special episode. We will talk about it.
Absolutely. Let's have a conversation about
that. I don't think anyone's
story.
Renee's like, I got you. Tomorrow I'll draw that.
I'm gonna write that story. Right. He's gonna talk me into drawing it too.
A post-apocalyptic world where mutants
there's somebody I know that was dared to write, Will Frisbee, and I can't remember who he wrote it with, actually took basically Space Marines and My Little Ponies and merged them together, so Space Marine ponies, as a joke.
Oh, wow.
And actually got really gritty and did okay sales wise. I'm just like,
oh wow,
you can merge a lot of things, and sometimes people will be there for it just because of the shock value.
So, aspiring writers and artists, there's a market for everybody, as we've just told you.
I mean, I can't remember, but there are some of the more popular franchises there because someone dared an author to do something. Like one of them was like Roman legions and like something else merged together. Trying to blank. It's a comic one common one everyone uses. Yeah, whatever. I will remember it. We'll talk about it in another episode, but.
That's how Mary Shelley came up with Frankenstein, because she went to a dinner party and the dessert was like opium tea or something like that. Oh. And they all just started throwing ideas out like a creative meeting. And she went home and started writing Frankenstein. As the story goes. I don't know how true that is.
Wow. Okay, it was first hearing of this. I hope that is true.
I want to say it was like Roman legions and something along the lines of like Pikachu or something weird like that.
Pikachu, like an
Something they
anime
combined.
type, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but it was along those lines, and it was one of the more popular artists or authors out there. And he was in a forum, and they told him like, oh, the argument was it's the craft matters more than the story. Like you got to be able to tell the story well. It's not the ideas that matter. And they were like, well, you couldn't do this and make it sell, and he made it a bestseller.
It's like bet.
Yeah, so it's on those lines. So the point is if you tell it well, people will go there for your Sparkle Girl horse puppies.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
All right, so before we dive too deeply into your crowdfunding and the Bengali, what we're doing with this, I'm going to show the commercial that is for this episode, the actual franchise. But for you listening, Nick has yet to do the voiceover work because the movie trailer voice guy was like, you got to pay me $1 million an hour. And Nick was like, I don't have $1 million. And so he's like, I'm just going to have to record it myself. But then he's got to figure out how to make that work. It's a thing, people.
I guess I could do it while it's playing. Is that a thing?
I am not the tech savvy one here, people. Okay. That's what we have Stabby for. She does the technology.
We'll figure that out.
All right. And with that, we're going to throw that commercial up there. All right.
That music gives me goosebumps, man.
So this is proof that there's weirdness out there for everyone. Hold on. Stabby found this on the internet in the 5 seconds that commercial played. But you ready for this? We have, hold on. I'm going to zoom up. Penny the Puppy Fairy Animals. See, we've already almost there.
Of Misty Wood.
I want to turn that into a horror thing now.
Yeah, what they did with Winnie the Pooh and Blood Honey.
Oh yeah, slasher fic.
That's close as I could get to Sparkle Puppy Fairy Horse.
It's close enough,
but it's close. All right, so we're now that we've talked about weirdness, and if you know what I'm referring to, dear listener, be sure to put it in the comment section when it comes up, because it's gonna bug me that I can't remember that story. It's one I heard years ago when I was first started writing. So be sure to reach out if you know what I was like talking around in circles about, and maybe you can put us back on the track. But until then, we're going to talk about Bengali because that's way cooler than my bad memory.
The Demon of San Diego.
All right. So tell us what's going on with this with this crowdfunding, this Fund My Comic, and what the levels are.
Okay. Well, let's dive into it. So it's pretty user-friendly interface as far as seeing what's there. It also has featured the trailer that you just shown. It'll tell you how many backers we got and all that stuff. I also put some sample pages in there from the comic, so you can kind of get a look at the artwork. Nothing makes me more angry than when I get a comic book. The cover is amazing, and then the artwork inside is not as good. So
garbage.
Hot garbage. But we don't have that problem with Bengali issue 3 because I think the interior artwork is just as good. If some of the pages are stuff I think I would have had a challenge with. I think Rich did a really good job with that. But going into the rewards, we have digital and physical copies available. Like I said, this is issue 3, so people have issues 1 and 2, but definitely issue 1. So the first reward is the $5 digital copy, and that will be as soon as the campaign ends. Those that back that, they'll get it within 24 hours because it's already put together. And then getting into the physical rewards, you get a Bengali issue 3 physical reward. That's $10. We've had 4 backers for that. Then we have the digital ketchup. And part of me wanted to spell it like the condiment ketchup because I thought it'd be funny. Where you're going to get all 3 issues of Bengali in digital format, and you'll get those within 24 hours after the campaign ends. And then going into the physical ketchup for guys that still like to hold comic books in their hands, all 3 physical issues are up for grabs with that reward. Should probably change it to where if you want it signed or not, but that's another thing. And then we're working on because it's those 3 issues is the first story arc, right, Renee?
Yes, this is the first
For
story arc.
Bengali.
Yeah.
Okay. And it ends kind of in a cliffhanger, which I dig. So we're offering a trade paperback, which is all 3 issues put together in like a hardbound book. Not really hardbound, but
that would be cool though.
Well, you almost like a paperback. So it's got like a thicker spine. We're going to put new artwork on there. I'm talking to the artist now. He's going to get working on that, and then as soon as that's available, I'll update the campaign of what the cover is going to look like, at least the pencils. So that's for $30. For an extra $5, you're getting a thicker, more durable book instead of 3 floppies or single issues. You get it all kind of contained. I like collecting trade paperbacks. I think that's cool, and it saves me time because sometimes it's a 5-issue arc, and somehow for some reason I can't find issue 4. It was like the most popular book in that series, so it's like it's hard to find. Kind of a pain in the butt. Moving on to the second page here. All right, so now we offer a T-shirt, and with that you'll get a T-shirt and a copy of the book. And the T-shirt has the front cover of the comic. I just kind of took away all the other stuff. I just left the masthead and the artwork in there. And you can select your size. We haven't had any backers on that one yet. Usually that one's pretty popular. And then this is our biggest tier, our most expensive tier. It's a custom 11 by 17 drawing, which is big comic book sheets that we work on. You get a custom drawing by me, Nick Garber. And then I'll draw you whatever you want.
As long as you're not his wife.
I draw you things all the time. That is nonsense. I'll do up to 3 characters with a simple background. And then I posted some examples below. Drawing, I did a Swamp Thing. Custom cover I did for a Phantom Hawk book that has Black Shroud and Corvid in there once we get her book going. So, and then this was the cover for issue 2 of Bengali, and the color version just turned out amazing too. And so those are all the rewards that we're offering, and as I think of them, I have the ability to edit and add them, and just like, hey, new tier's been unlocked, things like that. It gives a little bit of information of the company and where we're located. So that's pretty cool.
For people that aren't familiar with indie comics, what would you compare Bengali to if they only know the Trad Pub, DC, Marvel, Image stuff?
I'd say if you're a fan of comic books like Spawn, Venom, Haunt from Image Comics, also, I think you'll really enjoy this series. It's kind of how I get people to the table and how Renee does it too. See someone walking by with a Spawn T-shirt or a Venom T-shirt, like, hey, is that your favorite character? Hey, I got something similar to that. If you enjoy that book, I think you'd enjoy this too. And then we give them the pitch. Usually, about 9 times out of 10, they're walking away with a Bengali comic in their hand.
So, what age range would the story be? Since we've talked about comics, and some are designed for kids and some aren't, what would you rate?
Probably young adult. Young reader. It's really an all ages book. I mean, there's no swearing in it. There's no nudity. I think the only thing is probably superhero violence and a little bit of blood.
Yeah.
That's it. Like even the gore, like you have Basilisk, one of the villains in the comic. He punches through a person's head, but it's not graphic other than showing an arm going through a guy's head, but it's not even drawn in super graphic way.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, while you're talking, I'm showing people some close-ups that you couldn't do with the way you were sharing.
Gives you a little bit of Spider-Man vibes too.
Yeah, I guess with his build, I always overbuild characters as far as like their physical way. So like when I draw, I've had to teach myself how to draw Bengali the way he was intended, which is more of a like a Spider-Man build, athletic gymnast type build.
So I'm looking on the picture that's on the screen, which has him look like he's maybe flying. So it looks like there's echoes of something over here in the top. Is that reflecting on the glass? Is there a reason for this?
It was a blur effect I put on the cover.
Okay.
It's one of the powers he's going to develop through the series, and I'll give you guys a little bit of a little insider peek, a little spoiler. He'll develop this power called void pools, where he's able to essentially build a dark wormhole from where he's at to where he wants to go. It has to be within a visual range. So for now. And so with these void pools, it kind of creates a shimmer, a vibration type shimmer as he deploys the void pool and hops through it. So because it's altering reality in a sense.
Yeah.
So what other powers does he have as of issue 1? Because obviously you want them to read for the journey.
Yeah, the basic things that we show him in issue 1 and 2. I don't think we introduced new powers in 3, but he has these tendrils that pop out of essentially the suit. So when he puts the mask on, the suit deploys from the mask and encompasses his body.
Yeah.
Kind of like a skin for the actual Bengali entity that's trapped in the mask. So he's able to make edged weapons, tendrils. He has, I hate using the term super strength, but he is definitely stronger than your average peak human.
Yeah.
He has very quick reflexes. He doesn't have like a spider sense or anything like that. But the tendrils can, when they're extended, can sense danger. So the tendrils actually have to be deployed out of his body, and they kind of act like a snake's tongue, where they gather a whole bunch of information to make him faster. So he does have fast reflexes, but it's because he's kind of getting a little precognition of what's about to happen through those tendrils.
Okay. So what when you first started, Renee, we'll put the screen of you guys back up. When you first started with the idea of Bengali, what was the first power that jumped out at you? Obviously these things evolve, but like where did you start? What was the evolution from the concept to issue 1 for you?
Well, I guess with the power of darkness to manipulate into like solid stabbing objects, like sharp claws extended out, like tendrils, wild tendrils flailing about, because he still can't control that power since he's so new to it. So that's why at times the tendrils like go about in a certain way, trying to find out their surroundings, like Nick was saying earlier, trying to get information out of him as well.
I remember the claws being
Yeah.
the first thing that we really talked about, and everything just kind of snowballed from there. It's like, well, what if he had these, and what if he could do this, and because I just had this image of these claws,
Yeah,
just extended.
Do you dive into the origin of the mask itself, where the power comes from?
well, yes, and later on, as you continue reading, you'll find out later on too. And
there is 3 pages of backstory that we wrote about where the mask came from, how it got to Earth, and how it ties into some of our other characters like Solarian Prime.
So you've got 3 out. What time level or timetable are you producing these at? Because I mean, obviously comics take time. You've got to draw, got to get the line art, you've got to do the coloring. Like are you doing one a year? What's your pace?
We're getting faster. I'll tell everybody that, because when I tell you the time frame, you're like, man, these guys are slow as molasses, frozen molasses. But we did have a pandemic. It did slow things down quite a bit. So the first one came out this time frame in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the first one launched like October 5th of 2018, and we had it fulfilled by, I want to say April of 2019.
So that was before it was drawn. You crowdfunded it in advance.
Well, how we used to do it, we would have at least 5 to 6 pages drawn, and at least 3 pages fully colored and lettered, ready to go, to show that we are actively working on it. That's how Kickstarter used to work.
Okay.
Now, a lot of us doing crowdfunding, we've learned from our mistakes, because that book the first one was supposed to come out months before it actually did. But I went through a company that was in China because it was cheaper, but I had to order like 1,000 copies.
Mm-hmm.
So that took forever. Didn't take long to get printed, but it sat in customs for months
Mm-hmm.
on the Chinese side, and when it got here. So it sat in customs for months. And then I decided I'm not doing that anymore. So, and I think the next Bengali 2 Kickstarter, which didn't make its goal, it was our first failure on crowdfunding. Our first and only failure so far. But that happened, what was that, 2020, 2019?
Yeah, it was 20.
Like late 2019.
Yeah.
Right. I try to keep it around the September timeframe, because I look at it kind of like a Spawn type book. So I like to keep it around Halloween season. It's like, oh, my son or my nephew or whatever, or my niece, they're really into Spawn. This guy says that it's kind of like Spawn, so I'm gonna give him this. Maybe they'll enjoy it.
Hmm.
So that it didn't make its goal, and I'm like, all right, fine, we'll just print it ourselves. It's fine, because the book was already done. It was already colored. I figured that would be a big selling point to customers. It's like, hey, you don't have to wait. As soon as it's done and we get the money, we're sending it to print. But it didn't make its goal. So we decided to do it by ourselves. Like, we'll just print it and we'll sell it at conventions. And one day we'll have a website and we'll sell it on there, which we do now. And I'm pretty sure you can get issue 2. I'm not entirely sure. If not, it'll be done within the next 24 hours. It'll be up there. So really, it's actually not that bad as far as how long it takes us, because issue 3 had been done, not too long after issue 2. Because as soon as issue 2 was print ready, Rich, the artist, was already working on issue 3, and so I just paid for that one out of company pocket instead of doing a crowdfunding. And then I ran out of money to have it colored. So I just kind of sat on it for a while until we could get back up and running after the pandemic, start doing conventions. And it was, in July, I'm like, you know what? I found a good artist. He's got a low price point. Let's just knock it out, because I want this thing out by the end of, within 2023. I want it out. So Michael Woods is the colorist on this, and he did a fantastic job. He's done some pinups for me. We all kind of just agreed, like, hey, why don't we just use this guy that's been doing the pinups, because he's really good. I'm like, yeah, no problem. So he was available, and he got it done like within a week and a half. So I'm sure he drank a lot of coffee.
Wonder if it was coffee brand coffee.
I wonder if it's coffee brand coffee. I think besides comp copies that I'm sending to him, I think I'm going to send him some of that coffee brand coffee too. It's like, here, man, because I know you're going to need it. Either that or you're mixing it with Red Bull or Monster or something. So when all the pages came in, I went and lettered it about a month ago. I put all the thought balloons and captions and things like that on there, because it's something I wanted to learn how to do, and I've been doing it for a couple of our books, and I want to get better at it. I haven't really had too many complaints. I've had a couple of suggestions, a couple of critiques, and then I started doing some of my own research and studying on people that are letters that have kind of perfected their craft, and so kind of take their examples. And once it was all together, I was like, all right, well, it's time to get this thing funded, because I want to print it, instead of just doing a small print run like we usually do. It's a way for us to expand our readership, get more people involved in the company, more involved in some of our other characters. And and then we launched it. We launched it last Wednesday.
Nice. So it'll have been out for a week when this episode airs. So Renee,
Yes,
are you hard at work on episode 4? Where are you with the writing of the series?
No, I'm hard at work already. I'm working on another series right now of Cord and Sparrow, which is another Apogee instant classic. Thumbs up. That'll come out soon as well. But yeah, no, I already have what I.
If you ever want to know what excellence in comics looks like, top of the screen, and that is their logo. When you see that on comics, you know it's quality.
that's it. Because we believe in quality over quantity, so we don't release a book unless we're fully
Hold on, Stabby.
ready to go.
Let's see that again.
Hold on.
Let's see that. All right, there,
Yeah,
Vanna
sure.
White, stab. Yeah. So you've got issue 4 you're working on as well as another series for Apogee.
Yes.
Yeah,
So I don't know what the timeline to write one of these things is like, because obviously, writing a book is a lot different. So you're writing. When do you expect to have this to the company to start with 4? Like, if someone reads this, buys all 3, and they're like, "Man, I want more." When can they expect 4, 5, 12, whatever?
Well, I guess when it comes to finishing the script and all that, I usually plot it out with Nick. I'm like, okay, I spitball ideas, and from there we can do this for this story. We can include this for this story. So I guess it'll take a couple of months, depending on. Yeah.
Issue 4, we could probably get done. The artwork should be done by like May of next year, depending on how much time we actually get to actually.
As soon as they turn in that
Okay. So obviously there's a decent audience for crossovers from comics to actual stories. Is that something you guys are exploring with any of these properties to write like novelizations, either of the comics or in the world that this happens, but maybe different stories?
Yeah, actually, yeah. I do enjoy writing and step into the novelization of it. I would really enjoy dipping my toes in that section of book writing.
Okay. So if you were going to add so Bengali's its own thing, obviously. If you were going to borrow inspiration from any villain to throw up against him, what would it be? Because it's going to put you on the spot. And then how would you make it your own?
Any villain I guess start with?
Yeah, any villain you want to as the base. Which would you pick? Like, what's your ideal villain look like?
My ideal villain for Bengali. Someone that can control.
Someone that can control what? You're breaking up.
Oh, someone that can control the light and not feed off, so he won't feed from the darkness, so he can't access his power. Because the more righteous light there is, the harder it is to control the mask. The weaker he.
Okay.
Yeah. So a villain.
I don't know if there's anything like that out there, but that's a good. I mean, people generally associate good with light, bad with dark, and you've already at this point inverted both.
Yeah, we kind of wanted to tip the paradigm of that.
Almost a fallen angel would do it.
Would a fallen angel?
Yeah. If you were to ask me, the biggest villain for Bengali is also a hero within the Apogee universe, the Cardinal. Because he is born of light. From the first light, there's always been a cardinal. That's the backstory with that book. You could say that he was a creation of heaven, or however you want to. We never say in the book what religion it is, even though it does. There's a huge Catholic presence in there. So leave it to the Catholic Church to be like, hey, this is a very powerful thing. We should figure out more about it and make it join our side.
So at that point, if both are good guys, why? Like, I can't imagine why they would want to fight then.
Well, I mean, Crimson Guard has been out for a while, right around the same time as Bengali, and we did something for Free Comic Book Day called War Drums, and it was our roadmap to where we're going with all of these characters and how they're all going to meet up. And Bengalis eventually, or something Bengali-esque, is going to be a major threat to the planet. And one of the heroes is going to sacrifice himself to defeat him. So it's kind of us showing, like, we were teasing that it was going to be a big, like, grudge match between Cardinal and Bengali. It's a head fake if you're listening. I fooled you when we eventually get to that point, but it's going to be a couple of years down the road where you're not even going to remember this conversation. So it's okay. But yeah, Bengali's not a traditional hero. I mean, he's not even known as a hero in his own book.
No,
they keep calling him the demon. There's a fear campaign against him from the media. The police have multiple task force, multiple law enforcement agencies are in this task force to take him down because of just he's gone after one of the most reputable companies within San Diego, which is V Industries. So he's not really categorized as a good guy. I don't even think he would call himself a good guy. The entity inside the mask definitely wouldn't.
So is this mask in keeping with like the movie The Mask with what was that comedian that did it? Oh,
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey. Is it kind of like that, but like a grittier version of it?
I would say it's similar. I think it's definitely an inspiration to where we were going with it. But instead of having the powers of like Loki, like in The Mask, where they were just imbued into the mask itself contains the entity. It was disembodied by his superior and placed inside that mask. Really, I'll give you a little bit of the backstory because we're eventually going to get there in the next, 3 to 4 issues. So before the first light happened, before the Big Bang, you had everything was in darkness, right? Depending on what religious text you. Well, just scientifically, the universe was a void. There was nothing there that we know of.
Yeah.
So in that darkness, there was beings and entities and things like that were very powerful that lived in the darkness. So when the Big Bang happened, or as we refer to in Apogee, it was called the first light. As soon as the first light happened, it expelled all of those life forms to the darkest parts of the cosmos, right? And since the universe is constantly expanding, especially since that Big Bang, it set everything in motion. You had all these, atomic explosions and mergers of material, and materials were made, and then rocks started forming together, and having magma core centers, and you have these planets, and then these planets started having organisms that some of them advanced and created sublight travel, or faster than light speed travel. And we kind of go over this in Solarium Prime also, since all these stories are interconnected. Zetagoth was the main guy of the Dark Universe before the first light happened. And he had, was it 6? He had 6 acolytes.
Yes, 6 acolytes.
That were just not as powerful as Zetagoth, but pretty close. Zetagoth can't go anywhere near the light or where the light has touched. It'll hurt him. So his whole thing is to destroy everything the light has touched and created. So anything that was a creation from the Big Bang, he wants to wipe it out. He wants to go back to zero. Wants to go back to the way things were, where he was the big dog on the street. So these 6 acolytes start venturing out into the cosmos in a physical form, and they realize that they can go to where the light touched. It doesn't hurt them. But they're also start conspiring to usurp Zetagoth. And when Zetagoth finds out about it, he punishes them by disembodying them and placing them in their respective masks, and then shooting them across the cosmos.
Don't give it all away.
That's just the backstory.
Okay.
But that's kind of where we're going. That's the base. That's the base layer of where this all started and where we're going to. That will be introduced through the subsequent issues.
And we have a lot
of
mass as well too.
So do you foresee, like, okay, so the ring, for instance, if we use Green Lantern as an issue, there is the green ring, but then we find out there are other rings. Are there other masks out there, or is this the only one?
5 more. And I think the next issue of Solarium Prime, there's going to be a flashback of one of Solarin Prime's adventures before he comes back to Earth, where he runs into another one of these masks.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to be?
When he gets to Earth and he sees, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I was going to ask if they were going to be like color coded, or were they going to look more uniform?
They'll look. It'll be a different mask, but it'll have the same design elements. So he's not going to have when he goes and he runs into one of these other, and they're not all Bengalis. Bengali is Bengali.
Yeah.
So there's other masks that are very similar in design, but they don't look anything like them. They'll look like something indigenous to that planet. They're not going to have the same colors, not going to have the same patterns like the tiger stripes like he has here. So when Solarin Prime eventually gets back to Earth and he sees Bengali footage on the TV, he's going to make a solemn oath to himself to eradicate that thing because he knows how dangerous they are.
So how did he get the name Bengali?
We don't really say in the book. The way when me and Renee were kind of doing our creative meetings, and I'm like, Bengali, that's more of an Indian word, from India, or the Bengali people. So what I'm thinking is, since this mask has been around through millennia, since it landed on Earth, the Bengali people, and it'll be a mistake of just two people not being able to communicate or things like that. The people were trying to tell them people were trying to tell Bengali who they were, and it was a tribe of Bengali. So when they say the word Bengali, he's like, okay, that must be my name.
Okay.
So and it just kind of sticks.
So Renee, when you had the mask pick him, was it pure happenstance, wrong place, right time kind of thing? Or were there other reasons why the main character was picked to become Bengali?
Wrong place, right time, and actually kind of both, because he was angry because all he knew he was tricked, and all he wanted to do was, he just wanted to attend that meeting, to see what was all that about, and finding out that he got killed and wanting to stop, from anyone else getting hurt again, and wanting vengeance for what happened to him. He was giving in to that darkness, giving into that rage that the mask was telling him that he had, that he could help them focus on getting his revenge.
Okay. So what do you see? So is there weakness that Bengali would have by virtue of what kind of, what his power is? So for instance, Superman has kryptonite. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have a weakness to pizza. Are there things that he has a weakness to?
The righteous holy light, like a holy light, because his power is the essence of darkness, from evil, from chaos, and the righteous light, the bright light, but pretty much weakens him.
And there are instances of those in our other comic books that are righteous light or holy light, however you want to characterize it. But I think the biggest thing that he's really encountering now as a weakness is his attachment to other people, like friends and loved ones. Because he works for the San Diego Police Department. He's a sketch artist for San Diego PD. He does have a internal desire to protect innocence. So he'll fall for hey, if you come after me, I'm going to drop this rando citizen off a building. That'll mess with him. That'll weaken him as far as determination.
So he can't take the mask off, or it's a suit he can take on and off, or?
No, if he takes the mask off, the suit retracts and he has no powers.
It becomes his regular human self.
Yeah. But if he does that, is it obviously he loses a superpower, but can he take it off to go about his day job and then put it back on when he wants the power?
Yes.
Or
yes.
Yeah. And usually how it ends up on his face, it's not Benito's choosing. It's usually the mask is the one that does it. Mm-hmm. So we'll probably encounter that in issue 4, where the mask actually pops out some of the tentacles from the mask and like walks itself to Benny when he's asleep. And then Benny's still going to be asleep and the mask is going to take over him. And then Bengali is on the host and just works his body, you know? So, and all Benny's going to have is a really intense dream of what Bengali was actually doing while Benny was asleep.
So is there the chance that the mask could bond to somebody else while he takes it off?
It could.
Yeah, there's that.
It very well could.
Those possibilities, yes.
And that's actually one of the underlying plots is Benito's brother trying to pull the mask and trying to get it to bond with him.
So if you were going to turn this into, the big screen, do you want it to be kind of cartoon esque style? Would you rather it be a live action? Dream big. Budget kind of thing.
I could see it as a a tentpole summer blockbuster. But I could also see it as a long-term comic book cartoon series, like they did with Spawn in the 90s.
That's what
I think you'd have probably a little bit more creative options as far as visual storytelling in the animated sense, but a blockbuster superhero movie live action wouldn't hurt. It would still look cool, especially with the advancements of CGI technology.
So who would you say as a good actor to be Benito / Bengali?
Ooh. That's a good question.
And would you Nick, I think Woodard is the comic, what do you call it? He did part of it too. I can't remember what he said his title was. The line art or something?
Oh, Michael Woods?
Yeah. Would the three of you want like cameos in it if it went to the screen, or voiceover cameos if it went on TV?
Absolutely, I want to be in this thing.
Yeah.
So would you be like random cop number 1, 2, and 3?
Since I've let my physique kind of go, I think I would be old crusty detective number 5.
On your 12th divorce and, angry, bitter.
12th divorce, raging alcoholic.
Well, the reason I thought that is
ungroomed.
As we were prepping for the show, I grabbed Renee's social medias, and he has like a destroyer of donuts or something to that effect as part of his tagline. So I'm random beat cop number 12.
I mean, even Rob Liefeld got a cameo in Deadpool, and and Deadpool's telling him to F off. F you, Liefeld. I want something like that. I want something where I'm not treated with respect in the movie as one of the creators. I want to be treated with the utmost disrespect, where they call me Detective Shithead and Destroyer of Donuts. Why don't you get off your ass and go do? But
would you guys want to be there as Renee and Nick, or would you want to be there just random, like insert name? It doesn't matter. Like cameo as yourself, or just a cameo appearance.
I don't think I care either way.
No.
As long as I'm in it. Okay. I'm gonna start putting cameos of us in the book anyway, like in the comic form.
Just random like destruction. We're like, oh.
So you're gonna Tuckerize yourselves in the comics.
Oh yeah. Renee could be having like some barbacoa or something, and I'll be over there with like an In-N-Out burger.
I'll be one of the interviewee guys that's like slamming Bengali in the media. That guy destroyed my car.
Or it's me and him running from destruction, both with like cervezas in our hands and stuff.
Oh yeah.
You gotta have your priorities.
Oh yeah.
So would you drink a beer, a cerveza with Benito?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Marissa. I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you saying?
Oh.
Hold on, let me turn my mic off.
I recently read a behind the scenes thing that one of the original writers or original actors or something from Jurassic Park was the writer. It was the writer? Was in Jurassic World, and he was the guy running with 2 margaritas that left his family.
That's the Margaritaville guy.
Oh, it was Jimmy Buffett?
That was him?
He's running with 2 margaritas. He left his family, and he's just running with
you got to have priorities.
And I'm over here like, this whole time I was like, I'm with that guy. There's dinosaurs coming. I want to be drunk. I don't want to feel anything.
So that reminds me of the first time I went camping, hunting actually with my stepdad and a friend of his, and they told me that that my job if the bear attacks the camp, because I was very paranoid that bears, because Yogi, were going to actually attack us, and he goes, well, just so you know, JR, I can have more sons. I cannot get this coffee pot replaced because it's the old cast iron style, the blue enamel with the white like polka dot. He's like, so save the coffee pot. I can have more kids.
Right. I can have more kids. Well, I can't, but
right. So I can see Marissa be like, I can always clone some more kids, but I mean, this margarita ain't gonna drink itself.
I tell Kaden all the time if we come across a black bear, because this is California. Like, if we come across the bear, I don't have to outrun the bear, Kaden. I just have to outrun you.
That's true.
And a slash across the Achilles tendon, and man, they slow them down just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Just need. Okay. That's why you always carry a stick, so you can just whack him in the back of the leg. Ow! Why'd you do that? And the bear gets him.
So what about you? What about you, Nick? Would you have a drink with old Benito?
Yeah, I think we'd probably have some tequila. Not to be like racially stereotyping him, but he can have tequila or beer or whatever, and I'll have an old fashioned. But yeah, I'd definitely kick down some drinks with Benito. He's a cool dude. He's an artist. We can talk shop.
So where is this story set? We didn't ask that, but so what is the setting? Is it set in California? Oh, it's in San Diego.
It's in the Demon of San Diego. Yeah. So it's San Diego, Texas, but it's.
Well, I knew that, and I know you're from Texas, so I didn't assume.
Yeah.
All right. So what kind of iconic San Diego locations do we get to see throughout the comic? I mean, are there like, this is the really famous taco truck over on the corner of whatever and whatever, or what kind of iconic San Diego things do we get to see?
So here's the cool thing is, with me being from Las Vegas, I absolutely love being out here by the beach. And after reading through the Bengali comics and everything, and when we go out on date nights, we'll see random buildings, or we'll be on one side of the bay or the other side of the bay, and I'm like, hey, isn't that from issue 1? Isn't that from issue 2? And you see these iconic buildings that have these special shapes that really bring you in, including all the way down to the Comic-Con convention center. You can't miss the shape of that sucker. But we'll be just on a date night, and I'll look up and I'll be like, I think I know that from somewhere. So I have no writing or drawing I have no hands in this, but I can say that I can see it. I can see what they were going for. I can see the buildings, and I'm like, hey, I know that building.
So you manage the back end. So I don't know. You could probably have a cool title like executive vice president of shipping or something. I don't know.
Chief of operations.
Chief of operations. There we go.
Chief of ops.
Except in the videos. In the videos, he has me, Madam Stabby Stab, as executive producer.
I dig that. So Renee, is your wife also an executive, boss you around, affiliate of the Apogee Comics?
No, but she loves promoting us. She loves backing us and supporting us in any way that she can.
Okay.
We'll have to give her a title like Chief of Marketing or something like that.
Yeah, you guys, titles are everything. Chicks dig titles, I'm told.
Chief of Fan Relations.
Follow me for more marketing and family advice. Chicks dig titles.
Yeah, chicks dig titles. We should write a book, sell it for like $6.
Hey, I get bored at Comic-Cons and I want to go wander and check things out, and I bring people back to the table. She will stay at the table.
Okay.
Stay there and help sell while I'm just bringing people back.
Yeah, she's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Can you switch to the shared screen that I have real quick, JR?
Yeah. Hold on.
help me answer your question. Okay, so that building right there is a place in downtown San Diego. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a very prominent building. It's the only one like it downtown. I think
Nice.
it's like right next to like a couple of the hotels. There's a lot of hotels along the waterfront, so it's not like New York where you got all these crazy buildings, or Chicago where you have like Sears Tower and things like that. San Diego's main industry is tourism. So a lot of these are like hotels, a couple of business buildings, things like that. Actually, I think this building's in the Gaslamp Quarter. But I'm constantly taking pictures because we go downtown quite a bit for baseball games or festivals, things like that. So I'm always taking pictures. And she's like, "Are you trying to take a picture of me?" And I'm like, "Nah, this really cool building, and I like the way we're kind of angled, and I take a picture of it." So I have a huge photo morgue of downtown San Diego.
And now you've been clocked by the FBI as potential terrorists with the camera on all their like feeds.
Cops coming up like, "Hey, what are you doing here? This is Point Loma. This is a Navy base." And I'm like, "I'm taking pictures for my comic book." They're like, "What?"
In all fairness, after the first year of like, what the hell are you taking pictures of? I have become the same thing. I had jury duty, and we were out on a break, and I was like, "That's a badass building. Let me get this from a better angle." And I started taking pictures of buildings from the courthouse.
Well, the cool thing is
them to him.
The cool thing is if you go anywhere like, oh, there's this restaurant, I've really wanted to try it. Let me take pictures and include it in a comic book, and now it's a tax write-off. Right. Honest, that's the reason we ate at that taco truck. Or what's the other one you talk about? You got all the cool food trucks out there. We don't got nothing.
Oh, there's some great food in San Diego. Tijuana dogs right outside of the stadium. I will eat during the game so I can get a Tijuana dog outside by like the dirtiest food cart you've ever seen, but it adds to the flavor.
So yeah, that's the trick is you just got to start including that in the books, Renee, and then you can make that all tax deductible. Oh, now, yeah. Renee, are you in San Diego as well?
No, actually, I'm from Texas, South Texas.
So is there any chance of Bengali travel to your neck of the woods so you can get some sweet tax write-offs too?
There might be some billing breakouts. Who knows? You have to stay tuned for that story.
He's got to go out to San Antonio and have a fight on top of the Alamo.
Yeah,
dude, that would be kind of cool.
I would love because San Diego's home of the Pacific Fleet, or part of the Pacific Fleet. So, and we have 2 or 3 submarines that are stationed here. I would love to have a fight scene because I would love to draw this so bad. A fight scene on top of a sub as it's like going out of the bay.
So I go to like that down periscope where they're like playing golf on the top. You could do one of those scenes.
Yeah, and then Bengali jumps on there and they're like, "Oh crap, we got to get back inside." But they're watching the fight through the periscope. Oh, that would be awesome. I would draw the hell out of that.
Okay. So is there anything about the crowdfunding, the Fund My Comics, that we didn't talk about that you think the listeners should know?
I think you should be checking every 2 to 3 days. Because I'm going to be adding some tiers, some reward tiers as I think of them. Because people love to give you suggestions and you're like, "Oh wow, that's awesome. I can't believe I didn't think of that before," and put it in there. That's how the t-shirt happened.
Oh, so there is merch. I was going to ask you that. Is there merch?
Yeah, there's merch.
Okay.
We designed hats.
Did hats, watch bands, a hoodie, a couple of hoodies.
Deck.
What?
The skateboard deck.
Oh, I just ordered a skateboard deck. Well, 2 of them, one with Bengali and one with Phantom Hawk on it. So the skateboard deck might be a limited tier, like maybe, I don't know, like 5, maybe 10 that can pack it.
What about phone cases? People like phone cases.
Phone cases, yeah. I can whip that up right now and have it on there by tomorrow.
We also did leggings.
We did leggings. There's not a Bengali legging, but there's a cardinal legging and a Corvin Sparrow leggings for the ladies.
So does Apogee have any female superheroes in the roundout?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me get rid of this, and we'll switch it to this. Because
I love the ladies of Apogee.
Do you love the ladies? We have multiple. I feel weird trying to write female characters because I'm not a woman and I think I'd screw it up.
Mm.
But
so why isn't Stabby working for you? Last I heard, she was a lady.
She is, but I don't think she's delved into writing yet. So this is Corvid and Sparrow.
Can you zoom in so we can see them?
Oh, yeah, hold on. I think I can zoom in. Can I? I don't think I can because it's on my Facebook.
Okay. Well, it's a cool picture. So who are we looking at? It's two ladies. I can see that.
Okay. Renee, you want to go into this? He's helped me develop these characters.
Well, the one on top with the sword, her name's Corvid. And the one at the bottom, Sparrow. And the one that's looking at him is one of their deadliest villains they have named Bloodfeather.
Okay.
Yeah. The story behind them is that Corvid was part of an ancient society. They're watchers. It's called the Aviary. Their rankings are based on birds. And the higher you go up into the chain of command, you start going from just you go more into like the raptors, like eagles, falcons, things like that. So it started in the Middle East, because the Fertile Crescent, that's where humanity pretty much started, and eventually it found its way to the New World in the Sinaloa Mountains of Mexico. And Corvid, as a child, was adopted into this secret society because the secret society was doing some naughty things. They started going from, hey, we just want to collect and maintain and protect the collective knowledge of all human knowledge, all human history. So aliens, everything that a human being has ever encountered has been cataloged and studied, referenced, things like that. So they have a huge library. So for book nerds, you would love to go inside the Aviary's library because you're talking first editions of the Bible and stuff, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And
ancient texts. So eventually Corvid gets put onto a protection detail for the son of a high-ranking member of the Aviary, and he ends up getting assassinated. So they kick her out of the order, but she's devout, whether she's in the order or not. She's always on mission. So she ends up running into a cult that had kidnapped Sparrow down here outside of Oxford because she was going to school there, and Corvid was in disguise as a professor, which she could easily pick up being a teacher anywhere. Mm-hmm. So, but she was tracking down this cult, and that's how those two met. And then there was some unfortunate events for Sparrow, and was begging Gabriella Corvid here to train her, and that starts their adventure. Okay.
So back to Bengali. So are all of the RPG universes interlocked?
Yeah, it's a shared universe.
Yes.
Okay. So if people wanted to know more about the universe, where could they go? Because we're sitting at an hour and a half, so we're going to be wrapping this up soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, even my own interview, I went long. Yeah, you could see us at abgcomics.com.
So you have an overview about the various comics and so they can know where to start. Is there a suggested reading order, or does each sort of arc stand alone?
The way we did it is that if you want to go in chronological order, you'd start off with Bengali.
Is there a suggested reading order for people that are purists that way?
I don't think so, because eventually they all turn into 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon and interlock with each other.
Yeah.
I think if you really wanted a good, and it's only an 8-page comic, we did it for Free Comic Book Day, and I got to put it up on the website, but it's called War Drums, and it is a very quick reference of the universe and how these, and it's all told through the eyes of Phantom Hawk, which I kind of use him as our everyman. He's the only one that doesn't have superpowers. So it's kind of like he's the Batman of the universe. He's poor man's Batman. So you're seeing everything through this, soldier's eyes, and how he encountered all of these different characters, and how eventually they're all going to team up to face Zetagoth or his avatar.
Now, when you said a poor man's Batman, does that mean he's like driving a jalopy or something, like beating down Ford Ranchero instead of the Batmobile? Like, what are we talking about here?
stole, because he was a special forces soldier, he stole a prototype glider. It's kind of like a motorcycle with wings.
Okay.
So he stole one of those. It's beat to hell because he pulled it out of the building that got blown up that he was in.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff because he was an 18 Echo, that's a communications sergeant. So he's really good with technology. And he was already kind of a gearhead growing up. He liked, tinkering with machines, cars, motorcycles, things like that. So he was able to get the dang thing to work. So he uses retro tech, disabled tech, and he puts it back together for whatever use he needs.
Okay.
Oh, I don't want it.
I just call him the poor man's Batman because he has cool weapons, but they're you can tell they're do it yourself. If the ones that he's had to build, he does take like guns and knives and stuff off of like mafiosos and cartel guys that he encounters, but mostly it's him building his own tech, his own stuff. And he has like no money, like zero.
Okay. So the when does the crowdfunding, the GoFund My Comic for Bengali issue 3, when does that run through?
It started on Wednesday, which I believe was the 20th, and it'll run all the way until October 20th at 11:59 Pacific time, PM.
Okay, so
27 days.
If someone backs it because they want to make sure they get it in, and then they decide because I don't know how this crowdfunding site works, but if they decide that, you know what, I'm really picking up what they're putting down, or I like this new additional level, can they go in and increase their order?
Yeah, you can alter your pledge or reward at any time. You can pull it if you want to. Like maybe you just didn't budget for a comic book. It happens. I've done it. Or you saw something that enticed you even more, then you can. I don't know if there's an add-on section. I don't think there is. So you can cancel your pledge and then repledge at the higher tier or whatever tier that you really liked as the tiers start increasing.
And so there is a graphic, or what do you call it, a digital only tier, and then it goes up from there.
Yeah.
Now we learned, it hasn't aired yet, but when we interviewed Carissa with hers, that you have like all the way from, shiny covers to actual metal covers. So what do you see the limit for you guys as you evolve this, assuming you get the base funding?
I don't know if we'll start doing foil covers or metal covers. It's something that we used to offer in previous crowdfundings, and it just got too much to track. Because I would have to do a print run of like 10 metal covers, which means I have to charge you more, which I don't want to do. Because for that limited a run, the price goes way up as far as getting a copy of it. Mm-hmm. So I usually just try to stick to a standard comic book cover. But if this thing does really well, I have no problem start introducing those foil covers.
Now, people might find this episode, I don't know, next year, the year after, where this campaign has already ended. So is this something that once it's funded, they can get later? Obviously, if you're listening to it while it's live, funding it is the way to help ensure it happens. But assuming, sometimes we get people find episodes from 3 years ago and they're just now commenting and listening. So if they find this later and they didn't back it in time, will they be able to get it from your website?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Usually I'll wait after everything's fulfilled to the backers. And then after that, I'll introduce it to the website and it'll be linked there. For you to do just a point of sale right there on the website. And then we usually ship out within 24 hours.
So when we talked about that we were going to be doing some comic book interviews, we did have one of the listeners had a question. He had said he had a friend of his that had a classic like print of one of the comics he loved. I think it was Superman, but it was one of the original printouts, hand drawn and then signed. Is that the kind of stuff you guys could do, like a printout or
we can do a sketch cover.
Well, I don't know what those
are. The sketch cover it'll be a full color interior comic book. Everything from the color version to a sketch cover version will have the same stuff inside. Mm-hmm. So 22 to 24 pages of colored artwork fully done. Sketch cover is done on a special, almost like a drawing paper. Yeah. So it's a little bit more coarse, and it's kind of a big thing right now at conventions. They'll go to their favorite artist that worked on that book and then pay them money to do a sketch on there, and then they'll have their prices for, options, whatnot.
So is that kind of more personalized stuff available if they wanted a signed copy? They could, like a signed sheet they could frame and put in their office, kind of thing.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to try and add that tier now. I totally forgot about the sketch cover.
I didn't know the right words, but he just said it was like an image from the comic that had been printed out and then signed. I don't know if it was hand drawn.
Oh, a print
signed.
Yeah, those are like posters
with love or whatever.
Yeah, little prints. Take like a page or the cover, turning into like a little mini poster. You just take off like the barcodes and the credits that you put on there. You just leave the masthead in the image, and then you can print those out like by 8x10, as large as 11x17, sometimes even larger. And usually, like what we do when we're at cons, we'll have some of those available, and then we don't even charge for the signature. It's like $10 for the print, and then we'll sign it.
Cool. So now that we're wrapping this up, so Stabby, while we were talking, if you saw her running around, apparently her neighbors are having a huge party, so she had to tell them, if they didn't stop, she was going to stab them. It was a whole thing, right? And so we had to mute her because we didn't want to lose the family friendly rating. But in between, often a few of the neighbors, because they had it coming, right? That should be a justifiable legal defense. They had it coming. I mean, in Texas, it is, right? He looked at me funny. He had it coming. Oh, okay. No, we totally understand, Mr. Garber. But she did find some of the art from this coffee brand coffee. So we've got the logo, which I had found, but she actually found some of the art from the website. So if you go to the link in the show notes, you can find they have K-cups, they have regular ground and unground. So you can grind it yourself. They sell candies, coffee, teas,
like
chocolate. And so if you want to support us, the link is in the show notes. And then the discount code is podcast grunts, all one word. I do not think it is case sensitive, but P and the G are capitalized because, we're civilized and all. And we learned to read and write at the NCO Academy. And we weren't Marines, so they even taught us with pen and paper. We didn't use crowns or nothing. So if you want to support the show.
In all fairness, I didn't have to actually go and stab any neighbors. Actually,
so you're running the dad is now.
Well, the dad is deployed, so I had to go tell his daughters to respect their mama because dad's deployed. So I had to go help the other military mama put the kids in line.
I'll put the fear of God into him. I appreciate your service, ma'am. So if you want to support us, links are in the show notes. It really does help. Everything helps. There is overhead that we pay annually for StreamYards, for the hosting site, for the program I have to renew, the Wondershare, which is how we edit when we need to. And full disclosure, you guys seem to enjoy our bloopers, so we don't edit those out. But there are times where the guest has their kid walk in, and I don't know if you realize this, but the laws in Europe affect YouTube, so YouTube enforces them on us. And if the kids come in, it becomes under the weird European code, which means they can't make ads, they can't put it out there, which means they basically shadow ban it, but it's not really as a punishment. It's just following the European EU laws. And so sometimes that happens even with Stabby's kid, where we've got to pop over to the cutout screen or whatever, and that program isn't free, unfortunately. They're good capitalists just like we are, so every little bit helps. And if you want to do that while drinking delicious coffee, and we did sample it before we recommended it because we won't shill for what we don't believe in. If you want to help support the show, other ways to do it, also as direct, is to support us by buying our comics, in Nick's case, or my books, because all of that does help. And if you don't read the kind of stuff we write, but you enjoy the podcast, buy them and give them to a friend. Nick doesn't mind if you buy his comics and give them to friends. Or another popular thing, I've seen another comic book creator that we interviewed when we were still Sci-Fi Shenanigans. People would buy his comics because it was a tier option where they don't read comics, but they wanted to support a veteran. And then those X number of comics get donated to deployed veterans or VFWs, or not VFWs, VA hospitals, that kind of thing. Those are all options too.
Yeah, we do that. on this campaign, you can just donate, and whatever amount of money that you donate to the campaign without getting a physical reward or digital reward, we will equate that to whatever physical reward, and we will donate that to a veterans organization.
So you can support the show that way as well. All ways are enjoyable. If you enjoy what we're doing, you want to help us out, we greatly appreciate it. Another way is to hit that like, subscribe, and follow button. We're supposed to be telling you that all the time, according to the YouTube peoples who reach out to us. I'm like, hey, what the heck's wrong with you? Why don't you tell people this? Well, yeah, we just get nerdy and we forget. So with that being said, Renee, where can they find you on the Wild Wilder interwebs if they want to stalk you? And fair warning, people, he does live in Texas. Everyone has guns. I wouldn't suggest showing up to his house. I'm just saying.
Don't stalk him.
Well, like, they can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Okay, and all those links will be in the show notes. It's helpful that he just used his name, Renee Garza. I mean, it made it really easy to find him. So he's not exactly hiding. No WITSEC for this guy. And Nick, since you were on as guest and not host today, how can listeners find you on the Wild interwebs?
Well, you can find me on the on X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram and YouTube at Nick Garber Art. You can follow the company on X. Keep forgetting that it's X now. And Instagram at Apogee Comics.
Okay. And if you didn't know, when he's writing the Wordly Words, because we've co-written some short stuff together, he's on the Amazons as Nicholas Garber, because that's more professional and stuff.
Yeah.
So he puts on a monocle when he uses Nicholas as his moniker. He's got a monocle that he hides. Oh, are you going to actually put it on? No, the monocle looks weird. Yeah, where did it go? No, you had the monocle and the Monopoly hat last time. What happened?
With this economy, I had to sell them.
Back? Is that what happened?
There's too high maintenance. I had to sell them for groceries.
Okay. That's fair. Groceries are expensive these days. And so I'm about to remind you, dear listener, to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right books or comics. So do your part, people. And speaking of doing your part, I have never asked this question of people who do comics. So I'm going to ask you, Nick and Renee, how do people review your comics if they're buying it on crowdfunding or in comic book shops where they might not have review places?
Oh, there's multiple platforms for that. Usually they'll just go on there and scream at us on Twitter. There's a lot of review sites. There's a lot of review sites out there on the interwebs, on the social media platforms. All you got to do is like put in the hashtag. Usually it's like comic reviews and it'll pop up. We haven't submitted any for review. We've gotten some unsolicited reviews, which is fine. They were all positive, so we appreciate that. Yeah, once it's out there and people have bought it or read it, everybody in the internet, if they feel they need to, they'll review it and post it.
I like yelling at him on Instagram.
Yeah, so if you want to yell at people on Instagram, you could tell Madam Stabby over there on the Instagrams or the Twitters about how she was wrong and Sparkle Girl horse puppies are very awesome, and that she should write one for Apogee Comics.
I didn't say that they were bad.
Okay, well, that is awesome. Then you don't need to stab. You could like commiserate together, and maybe together a beautiful union of creativity will be formed, and that'll be the next big blockbuster. We never know. It all starts when you reach out. And speaking of reaching out, you can find us on our Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters and Blades podcast. We link to all the things, the BitChute, the Rumble, the Twitters. We have the email linked, blastersblade podcast@gmail.com. We have our Facebook group where all the shenanigans happen, /groups/Blastersblade podcast. You can comment on the show there or just talk to us or at us. We don't mind. We have our website where you could support the show more directly at anchor.fm/blasters and blades. Again, anchor.fm/blasters-and-blades, where for as little as 99 cents a month, you can help keep the light on. Or if you do, you can support the show more directly at buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that it is for the podcast, and I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated with only the best coffee brand coffee Java that money can buy, and they don't give us a discount. So we pay for it just like you do, people, but it's delicious. So be sure to support, and we really appreciate it. And with that being said, thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. And if you've noticed, we accidentally recorded too many episodes for season 3, so you're going to be getting some 3 a week. I don't know how that happened, but basically Nick and Stabby and I have no lives, so we're like, this sounds like fun. We're too poor to shop, so let's talk. And episodes were born. And you should be thankful. So, all right, with that said, we're going to end the show with reminding you to drink some coffee brand coffee.